Afternoon, everyone. This is Nithar Ramachandra from the NR Hour Sports Show. This is episode 956, alongside with one of our co-hosts, Kia Lyons, and we're joined by a really special guest. His name is Fred Barnett. He's a former Pro Bowl wide receiver from the Philadelphia Eagles, Miami Dolphins. He went to Arkansas State for college. What a great career, man. Over 300 reception yards, 5,000 receiving yards, over 40 touchdown catches, and what a great career, like I said, and a great person, great personality on the field, off the field, big into bourbon, so which we'll get to. But first of all, Fred, I just want to say thank you for joining the show. It's truly an honor. We finally made this happen. And first of all, how are you and your family doing today?
Thanks for having me. We're doing well. As I mentioned earlier, we've moved to Bermuda about a year and a half ago, and life is good. We're fortunate. Of course, with this pandemic, everybody's going through a lot of different issues, health issues, and, friends that are passing away from this thing. But, of course, you have to do what's best for you. And we've made a choice to come here, and everything is going very, very well. And I appreciate your asking. But, life is good right now.
That's good.
Fred, it is such an honor to have you here.
Yeah, we are live. Hold on, we are live on
Thank you.
Radio, Anchor, and Spotify. So fans, please tune in.
Cool.
Tune in and get back to the Big Eagle. This is so exciting. Fred, take us back to growing up, your inspiration, and how you got into football and became this acrobatic wide receiver. Awesome.
Oh, goodness. I have an interesting story because some people know, but some people don't. Most people don't. I didn't play football until my senior year in high school.
Wow.
Because my mom thought it was too dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And I, of course, grew up seeing my uncles play, and even my cousin was playing at the time in junior high school and Pee Wee. And I just grew up really, first of all, knowing that I could play the sport and having a desire to play the sports. Of course, I was very athletic. Being athletic runs in my family. All of my uncles played football, played basketball or some sort of sport, and was pretty good at it. And finally, my senior year, after getting so much pressure from my friends, I went to my mom and I asked her, I said, look, can I please play? And it came down to me saying to her, I think it's about time for me to make my own decisions. And she kind of looked at me and like, what does that mean? And she, my grades were good. And she said, hey, look, you know what? I think it is about time for you to make your own decisions. And I went out and played and made everything and got a scholarship. And 4 years later, I was being drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. So It was a dream come true for me, for sure. And I can remember those times when when I wasn't playing, like 15, 16 years old, I can remember just the kids would be outside playing and I would be just sitting in my room, just thinking about the chance to be on the field. And it came true. And not only did I get on the high school field, I was on the college field. And of course I was on the professional field as well. So it was definitely a dream come true for me. And it was just, I remember the first time actually, my first game, I played against the Indianapolis Colts.
Okay.
And I was so focused after just kind of having this dream and then being given the opportunity. Mm-hmm. It seemed like that time just slipped away, and it slipped away in my memory. And I can remember being in the huddle and coming out of the huddle and lining up. This is my rookie year. I'm lining up on the field and the referees call a timeout.
Yeah.
And when they call a timeout, I just put my hand on my hip and I just kind of looked up in the stand and I was like, oh my God, I'm here. And it just hit me. And I got totally emotional. And it's like, what am I doing about this big football player on the field crying? And it really like hit me like a ton of bricks. Like all that time it took for me to get there, it seemed as if it was just a mist. And it was all just like gone. And all of a sudden I'm on an NFL field. And it was so gratifying and so inspiring, and even to myself, because it made me realize and think about the time when I wasn't on the field and the time that I dreamed about being there, and just the reality of it hitting me, that I was there. It was just amazing.
Well, we are so grateful. Philadelphia is grateful. Thank you to Mama Barnett. We appreciate that give and your efforts in being there. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I want to ask you, obviously we lost a legend in John Madden. I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on his legacy? And obviously you were in the Madden games back in the day, and do you ever go back to look at your own Madden ratings? But just speak on the legacy of John Madden.
Oh, John was amazing. And what's interesting, I would almost rather make John Madden's team than the All-Star team, than the All-Pro. I mean, if John chose you, you knew you were a bona fide football player.
Yeah.
And the legacy that he had, and just how he transitioned, from being a player to a coach, and then being one of the best, greatest announcers of the sport. It's just amazing. He was an inspiration, of course, to a lot of people. I know he was definitely an inspiration to me. I mean, even some highlights that I have, I just hear his name and hear how he just was excited about me as a player, and just how he just kind of explained what I was doing on the field. It's amazing just to hear that now. And I actually made the All-Madden team 3 years in a row. My rookie year, 90, 91, and 92. And for him to have chosen me, it really kind of validates the hard work that I had put in. And, for him to recognize me, it's just amazing. And it makes me feel proud just to be a part of anything that he was a part of.
Mm-hmm.
That is so amazing. I heard Howie Long mentioning to Chris Long on his podcast that once John Madden went to an announcer, it was almost like everybody thought he was an incredible player, incredible coach, but then it was just this magical, amazing, another side to him. And it's just so special. His voice, it was really, yes. It's so nice that you had those moments and that feedback. For sure. Tell us about some of your greatest moments that really, like you were talking about, like just looking up and being like, I'm here. Tell us another one of the greatest moments in football, pro or whatever. Maybe the first time you played that just really resonated with you and just like, gotcha.
Well, when I think about my first touchdown, it was actually in the preseason. I think it was against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And of course, as a rookie, I mean, not many people are able to experience this or understand it, but a lot of football players will. As a rookie, you're just trying to do what you're supposed to do and trying to do everything you need to do to not get cut. I mean, although I was a third round draft choice, but one of the greatest times in my career was, me getting to the point of understanding that I was a player that was going to be counted on, that I was going to be on the field, that I was going to be playing, and that really encouraged me to work a lot harder. Sometimes as a rookie, and there are some guys come in as rookies and get playing time. But after Mike Quick hurt himself in like the third or fourth game in the season, I was able to start as a rookie. So, I wanted to put myself in a position where being in that position wasn't pressure. So I had to prepare myself, for that position. But the greatest moment for me, back to your question, was just accepting, I don't want to say accepting the fact, but just being so proud that I was being counted on. Buddy Ryan came to me and he was like, look, you're our guy. And I was like, whoa, of the guy, and it's like, wow. So from that point, I had to do what needed to be done to prepare myself. I mean, after that time, I started every year for the rest of my career. Wow. I was never I was on the bench for three, 4 games. And that it was just amazing to be put in a position where, you were the guy. And from that point, as I mentioned, it was my responsibility to make sure that I upheld my part.
Absolutely. You're a household name.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
For
I
sure.
don't want to say it's hard to believe, but I'm just I'm from a small town in Mississippi, and Gunnison, Mississippi. You guys, of course, probably never heard of it, and grew up, of course, dreaming about the game and talking to my friends about it and telling them, one day I'm going to be out there. And of course, everybody laughed at me. And now everybody's trying to get in touch with me.
Yeah. Hey, it's always good.
Great.
It's always good being recruited by Buddy Ryan, man. That family is well respected in the game, and obviously you got Rex Ryan and Rob Ryan, and what a great family too.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, tell our fans about your college recruitment process and how did that go? And obviously you went to Arkansas State, and how many offers did you get coming out of high school, and what made you choose Arkansas State?
Well, that's a good question because, my story is really a story for those players who feel like they possibly don't have hope, or, their destiny is not football or kind of not in place. As I mentioned, I played 1 year.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And playing just 1 year, I didn't have many scholarships offers. I think Ole Miss gave me a half scholarship, and Arkansas State very late, gave me a full scholarship, and that's for one reason. The interesting story behind that is that Arkansas State was recruiting a friend of mine who was in junior college in Mississippi. And my friend told this recruiter, and then I don't know if you know his name, but his name is Ron Meeks. And Ron went on to be, I think, as high as he got in coaching, was the defensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. And he also coached a bit with the Redskins. And he was at Arkansas State. He actually recruited me there at Arkansas State. But a friend of mine told Ron Meeks, who was the defensive back coach there and a recruiter there, for high school kids and junior college kids. My friend told him, hey, look, you probably need to go to Rosedale. That's why I went to high school, Rosedale, Mississippi. You need to go to Rosedale and look at this kid named, of course, Fred Barnett. So on his way back to Arkansas State, he stops and he talks to my head coach. And he asked to see my film, and he saw my film. And my coach ended up telling me this after I signed.
I want to know what the coach said.
He saw my film, and he asked, "Has anyone else seen this?" And my coach was like, "No, nobody really knows about it." And he made my coach promise not to show it to anybody else.
You paid off coach.
And I had my senior year, I had 8 touchdowns as a wide receiver, and I had 7 interceptions as a free safety.
Wow.
So that in itself is you're no pushover if you're making those kind of plays. But the next day, Ron Meeks actually called me and asked, could he come up and visit, talk to my mom, and he came up and visited me. Went back to Arkansas State. The day after that, he came back and picked me up. Took me back to Arkansas State, which was only 3 hours. I think it was about 3 hours. And ended up running a 40. I ran I'm a high school kid. I ran a 4.4 on grass. I was like, I was nervous, but I'm like, this is my chance.
Yeah.
And after I ran my 40, Larry Lacewell, who was the coach at the time, he had his little golf cart and he, drove to me and he was like, you want to play here? And I'm like, yes. He's like, we'll sign you. And we went and we signed, and here I am.
Wow. That is so cool.
That's amazing.
That's movie material right there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Seriously, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, how did it feel? You go, you play there. What was it like playing your first game there?
Oh, it was very interesting because it's I'm the type and that has a mindset or understanding that if I'm doing something different, I need to adapt.
Yeah.
High school game is totally different than college. Of course, college is totally different than it's the same game, but it's totally a different speed. And I knew that of course, with the nervousness that I had, and this is a good nervousness, not scared.
Yeah.
But I knew I had to take it up a notch. And I actually ended up being redshirted my first year because I hurt my knee. But I came in and you know, I was destined to start. And I was going to start before I hurt my knee. And it was a, you know, I don't want to make it sound easy, but it was a transition it was an easy transition based on the desire I had to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So, and if, you know, to all kids out there, if you got a desire to be a part of something that's bigger than you, you need to make the adjustments to make sure that you fit in with it. And I did that at every level.
That's incredible. And I truly believe, I believe that you had this great desire, because 1 year senior and then you're in. And what Nithin and I have learned from these interviews that really resonates and it's so powerful is being active, an active player. So it's like, you're there and you got to fight for your spot, or just keep representing and saying like, this is my opportunity. And that's exactly what you did, which is so cool and such like an inspiration for kids now.
Yeah. I you know, to look at it realistically, I played 5 years of organized football before I was a professional. Oh, wow. You know, my senior year and 4 years of college. Yeah. And that was it. And, you know, you talked about destiny and just being able to, you know, prepare yourself to go out and do it. You know, it's something that was in place for me. You're
the prime example of when preparation and timing, that opportunity is when preparation meets which divine timing. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to be ready for opportunities.
Now your story, man, is amazing. And playing 1 year in high school, especially being a senior and playing 1 year and getting a great college in Arkansas, it's really amazing. It's truly inspiring. And
yeah, you said I'm doing it.
Yeah. And
it has to happen.
Yeah.
I wasn't going back to Mississippi.
Yeah, so tell our fans about your draft experience. Obviously, you got drafted in 1990, round 3, pick 77 by the Philadelphia Eagles. So what was that like for you and your family? So take us back to that day and waiting for your name to be called. And once you got your name called, how relieved were you that you made your dream?
That was very interesting because I was able to get to the combine because I think I was so big and fast. And I didn't have great numbers coming out of Arkansas State. I only caught 95 receptions throughout my career there. But I was fortunate enough to get to the combine. And as I could think, I remember I was in like the top 25 receivers coming out before the combine. And after the combine, I dropped down to like one of the top 10. And once again, you know, as you mentioned, as we're talking about, you know, here's a chance for you to take advantage of opportunities. Yeah. And I talked to the New York Jets. Mm-hmm. I even talked to Dallas, and never talked to anybody from the Philadelphia Eagles. Wow. So I had no idea. So my thought was that I would probably go to the Jets or Dallas. And, you know, sitting there in my apartment at Arkansas State, just kind of waiting for the phone to ring. A couple of my buddies call, and I'm like thinking I'm getting a call from the track, you know, and it's like second round. I'm like, oh, and like, hey, did you get drafted? I'm like, don't call me. Yeah. Hung up the phone. But of course, the third round, the 77th pick, the Eagles called, and I was shocked because I didn't know, of course, much about the team besides, you know, Randall Cunningham, Reggie White. Yeah, you know, Jerome Brown, those guys.
Oh my gosh, Jerome Brown, love him.
But I thought, of course, I was, you know, elated. I was just beside myself, you know, being drafted that early. My agent at the time told me that I would probably go between third and fifth, and I was early third round draft choice. So it was pretty exciting.
Wow.
We're so glad you did. Philly. Tell me about playing with Reggie and Randall and Jerome.
Oh, it was amazing. You know, there were a lot of guys on the team that just, you know, had these, you
and
know,
Mark too, right?
These personalities that were just amazing, you know, and that's one of the things I really missed about, you know, our team. Yeah. These guys were so funny. There's so many things that I can't even talk about on this show. that
can
would
talk
just, that
about
are
it.
just hilarious.
Give us a nugget.
And they're G, R, and the above. So, but it was great. I can remember, first coming my first, of course, few days there, and at practice, Reggie White kind of pulling me aside because actually we had the same agent.
Oh wow.
Okay.
So he was kind of like, hey, if you need anything, call me, let me know. Don't hang out. You need to do what's possible to make the team. Just kind of let me in on who Buddy was as a coach.
Mhm.
He
Yeah.
was no nonsense. He was looking for football players. He wasn't looking for guys there with, ulterior motives and, interested in doing anything other than playing football. So, that helped me out. Guys like Mike Quick was there for me.
Yeah.
And I can keep going on and on and on about, guys I've had conversations with that helped me out throughout my career. Keith Byers was a great inspiration to me, and of course Randall as well.
Yeah.
But I really miss those times. A lot of fans often tell me that those were the best teams, although we didn't win a championship. Guys with those different personalities and who they were as a defense. Of course, Philly likes defense, but it was amazing playing with those guys.
That was like when reality TV was cool, just watching our Eagle.
Oh,
I
God.
liked that.
If we had social
that.
media back then, oh my gosh. Oh my.
Tell us about Buddy. Like, tell us, how that coaching was.
Buddy was, of course, a defensive coach. So he would often, stroll to the offensive fields and check out everything. Buddy's scared. I remember talking to Calvin Williams one practice, and we're just sitting there, and they're going over a running play. And there was a kid that was drafted out of Wyoming. I think it was Wyoming. Mm-hmm. And the kid messed up twice. And Buddy was there, of course, twirling his whistle. I don't know if you know, he twirls his whistle and let it wraps around his finger, and then he twirls it and let it wraps around his finger again. And the kid, you kind of stopped, they stopped the offensive practice and was just kind of working with him to get this play right. And so we're just standing there. And he messed up again, and Buddy said, cut him. And turned around and walked away. And I'm like, did he just say cut him? And Calvin and I looked at each other like, oh my gosh. And he was gone.
Wow.
Heart palpitation.
He was gone. He got cut over just not knowing
Buddy
that
don't
one.
play.
So of course we're like, oh goodness gracious, we better not, do nothing wrong.
Yeah.
But Buddy was, of course, he's a player's coach. He's a player's coach, and as I mentioned, he was more of a defensive guru, of course, in the offense. So just to see our defense interact with him, Bud Carson, these great players with these great football minds was just amazing experience for me to be a part of.
Wow. Yeah. So what was it like? Speaking of teammates, you got to play with Mike Golick, obviously a great personality on TV now. And I actually had his son on the show last year, Mike Golick Jr. And what was it like playing with him as a teammate on the field and off the field?
Oh, Mike was funny as heck. So I'm not surprised that Mike's doing what he's doing. But you know what? Mike was like underrated. Mike was a really good player too. And he was just as good as a player as he is, running his mouth because he could talk, man. And he did the same thing. He did the same thing in the locker room. He was always chatting it up. And he was always a great guy to be around. Of course, a great teammate. Everybody loved him on and off the field.
Yeah, and also I got to bring up Al Harris, man. He's our secondary coach. Yeah, we have him in Dallas, and I got to ask you, what was it like going against practices? And would you say that he made you become a better receiver by going against him in practices?
Well, Al Harris. Mm-hmm. You talking about big Al Harris or? Oh, I'm not sure.
Al Harris is. I think I'm getting mixed up. We have Al Harris in Dallas, the secondary coach. I think that's a different one. Yeah.
I think it's a different one. Yeah. He was a little after me. But there was Big Al Harris who played with the Bears.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
When I was there. Yeah, and he was like a defensive lineman. So I was about to tell you, I never went against the defensive lineman.
That's my fault.
No problem.
Fred,
That comes from having that Dallas jersey on. That's all it is.
And
That
let's
Dallas
say that we
thing.
respectively made Nathan take off the Dallas jersey
Yeah.
for the interview, although we respect it.
Yeah.
Fred, tell us about the sacrifices or any moments where you're like, I'm grateful, this was a really hard day, or I'm like, I got my face in the dirt, or, you know, injury, and you muscle through.
Well, you know what? Football's a tough game. I know what, I don't have to say that, but there's always ups and downs in football, and you always have to have a positive and optimistic mindset. Mm-hmm. You know, anytime you get hurt, when I always equate it to when something happens, it's a bad play. And, you know, in your mind that there's another play for you to make it up. So even in life, you know, even when I had an injury, it was like a bad play to me. And of course, my season was gone, but I had another season coming up next year. So, and that's the mindset. You have to have a short-term memory, you know, in football, because, you can drop one pass, one play, and the next play, you know, you have an opportunity to catch the winning touchdown. So you have to really stay optimistic about, you know, when things don't go your way. And in football, things always sometimes not go your way. I don't know if that makes sense, always sometimes, but there are always plays where, you know, you're not going to be perfect. But, you know, I think it's important that you keep an optimistic mindset that you win the majority of your plays. And
that's an amazing mindset.
Able to bounce back.
For sure.
Yeah.
Always looking for the next play. It's about the play.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
So
that's good. It's a great way to not take it personally and just keep that vibe up.
Yeah.
Of course.
So this is a two-part question. Tell our fans and about Randall Cunningham, and what was it like catching balls from him? And obviously, he recently got into the Hall of Fame. And congrats to him getting into the Hall of Fame. And what was it like just being his teammate? And the next part to this question, share some of your experiences in playing in front of those Philly fans.
Oh gosh, playing with Randall was amazing. Of course, he's an unbelievable athlete. He's an unbelievable quarterback. His arm was like no other guy I've ever played with. This guy could just stand there and throw the ball 70 yards down the field. So inevitably, it required you to be a good receiver and being open, because he put the ball exactly where it needed to be. We would often challenge each other, have him take 5 and 7 step drops and see if he could outthrow me as I'm running down the field. A couple of times I caught the ball, but most of the time he got the ball over my head. But, you know, what a great athlete. I did not know he made the Hall of Fame. Yeah. So I guess I've been out of touch. So he did.
That's all right. You're in Bermuda.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I have to call him now then.
You got to reach out.
When did that happen? Like
he was in this what's it called? When Andrew James and Peyton Manning went in. Let me bring this up right now. Okay.
I'm surprised I didn't hear about that, because I was just in Philly. But Randall's a great quarterback. One of the best. Of course, he was one of the first running quarterbacks, scrambler. He was called the scrambler at the time. One of the guys who would hurt you throwing and running the ball as well. So what a great guy as well. You know, we've had a relationship off the field as well, and he actually still talk to him from time to time.
Sorry, not the Hall of Fame, Philadelphia Eagles Hall of Fame. That's what I meant.
There we go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Man, you and that, hey, dude, you need to. You got Dallas on your brain. That's what that is.
I was thinking, how did I miss that?
That's the second time. That's the second time you missed.
My fault. That's what I meant. The Philadelphia Eagles Hall of Fame. There you go.
Yes. That I do know.
Yeah.
Fred, I appreciate the insight and the inside addition. Like I was mentioning, my best friend's dad, Russ Cadle, was a preacher and did a lot of work with Reggie and Randall.
Yes.
And so a lot of the times when I was cheering for you guys, I was at their house. And when we were at their house, we had big prayers up and there was no talking, not a word. We were listening, we were watching, and we were like all eyes on you guys. So just thank you so much for the memories, for the wins, for the process. For sure. Now tell me about some of the brotherhood that you guys had, that camaraderie, that just in life outside football, or just, you know, off the field, but in the locker room, anything of that camaraderie.
Well, we actually used to have a bowling night where we would go to the bowling alley on our off day on Tuesday and, you know, bowl against each other. I wasn't a good bowler, but, you know, I would show up from time to time. And I think the one guy that really, I guess we stuck it out as friends was Calvin Williams, who was of course, we were drafted together. He was the 5th round draft choice, I think, out of Purdue. And I still talk to him probably once or twice a month.
Oh, that's awesome.
But, you know, if we're talking about the camaraderie that we have in the locker room, it was it was amazing. It was, I mean, if we all got together right now, we would look at each other and wouldn't say a word, and we would all just start laughing. It was just
that was my next question. You need a reunion online.
Oh, good. Yeah. We sure do.
Drinking the bourbon.
You know, when we think about all the things that we used to do and what people used to say and how guys used to play tricks on each other. I remember one. Let me tell you what Jerome did one time. So whenever, of course, there was a rookie class, the rookies always went out first to just kind of go over the plays or what have you. So the veterans are, of course, still in the locker room. So we would take the rookies' clothes and tie them in knots and just string them out through the locker room.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy.
So
they were not ready.
after practice, when they come in, we would say, "Oh my goodness, the knot man came." So their clothes would be in knots, stringed up throughout the locker room. And of course, right after practice, you had about 20 minutes to shower, and then you had to go to meetings. They didn't have time to shower. They're sitting there trying to take their clothes out of knots. So they have to go to the meetings. And then when the meetings are over, we're leaving. So we're leaving, and they're like showering and taking their clothes out.
Oh my gosh. They were not ready for press conference.
Over there, and another thing, we used to talk about the free turkeys on Thanksgiving and give an address. And of course, the rookies would go to the address and nobody would be there. Wow. And, you know, we'd be there laughing.
That's crazy. Wow.
That's fun.
Yeah. So obviously, I not only you play for Philly, you play for Miami, but I'm just curious, how tough is it was leaving Philly, the team that drafted you? And did you ever think to yourself, maybe you could have spent your whole career with Philly? And take us to that process. And how did the Dolphins opportunity come about? Well, actually, that was a year. It was my second year under Ray Rhodes, and John Gruden was the offensive coordinator at the time, and I was a free agent. So it wasn't that I didn't want to stay there. You know, I wish I could have stayed in Philadelphia, of course. But they were looking at something different, which, of course, that's business, and I understand it. So that's basically how I ended up in Miami. And interestingly, Jimmy Johnson, who was, of course, with the Cowboys, who had a chance to draft me and didn't, you know, took it upon himself to say, hey, look, you know, I'm not going to let this guy get by me this time. So I ended up, of course, in Miami. And that was actually his first year coaching with the Dolphins as well. Oh, wow. Yeah.
What a personality. How is that?
Jimmy's he's a no-nonsense guy as well. You know, the one thing that's interesting about Jimmy that's different than Buddy Ryan, of course, they clashed. Yeah. Jimmy loved young players and Buddy loved older players. Buddy loved the experienced guys who didn't mess up. Jimmy just liked the guys who like to bounce around and run around and you know, coach them like that. But you know, and often, you know, it makes me think about, you know, the relationship or lack thereof relationship that those two had with each other. That was amazing.
Yeah. So speaking of, obviously you went from Randall Cunningham to Dan Marino. So what was it like playing with Dan Marino, one of the legends out there, one of the best quarterbacks I ever seen play or watch highlights of? So what was it like playing with him, Dan Marino?
Oh, he was smart. And, you know, of course, it was fortunate to be able to play with, you know, an NFL legend. I can remember the first practice that I had, and I'm out warming up, and he walks out of the locker room by himself, last one to come out of the locker room. And he has his knee braces on, and they're just, you know, they're not strapped up. And so they're just kind of flapping around. And I'm looking at him like, this guy looks like he's 90 years old.
Yeah.
And he, you know, we're kind of doing our own, sorry about that. We're kind of doing our own drills.
Yeah.
Individual drills. So I just kind of take a peek over at him, and he's like warming up, and he's like grunting as he's throwing the ball. And I'm like, whoa. So we get to, the passing drills. And of course I jump up there first, and we got a slant route. You know, mind you, I saw him warming up, and it looked like he was, you know, having issues. And that first slant I threw, I ran, I come out of my break, and I look, and that ball was pow, and I'm like, whoa. And he saw the look on my face, and he smiled, and he was like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah." I was just so surprised how accurate and hard and quick he threw the ball. It was just like, whoa, I'm playing with, you know, a quarterback god.
Yeah.
This guy, he was amazing. He was amazing, and of course his numbers speak for themselves.
That's amazing.
Oh, I wish we were a fly on the wall for that moment. That sounds amazing. Did you ever play with Wes Pritchett or Ned Bolcar? Were they at the Dolphins then, or were they before that? Okay.
I'm not sure if they're before or after. The name doesn't ring a bell, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I think Wes was Notre Dame, and then he was with the Dolphins. I guess that was before you. Tell us about how it felt going to Miami, the weather, the field, the difference from there, from Philly, and the changes of moving your family. What was that like?
Well, it was interesting. It was just something new, you know, and of course it was exciting. You know, it was an emotional shift, you know, coming from, you know, a blue collar Philadelphia now to a glitzy Miami, and you know, to tell you the truth, I of course I enjoyed being with the team and enjoyed and, you know, thankful that they were interested in me. But, you know, Philadelphia was just my kind of city. You know, Philadelphia fans were just, you know, my kind of fans. And, you know, I ended up playing 2 years there, and actually had a knee injury there as well. And just kind of put me in a position to, you know, call it quits. But, you know, it was exciting, and it was new, and it was something that I hadn't experienced before, you know, just, you know, driving 10 minutes and being on the beach, you know, and even doing rehab in the beach, on the beach, you know, in the salt water.
Nice.
You know, so it was a great experience. Met a lot of friends there. You know, the 75-degree Christmases were great. So, you know, it was just different. It was different. Yeah. But, you know, of course, I appreciate, you know, what that team did for me and the interest they had in me at the time.
Yeah, that sounds super special, the experience. Definitely nice to experience it.
Yeah,
so Philly's raw, but we've got that authenticity, but the ritzy glitzy sounds good too. And I have been there in Florida when it's almost Christmas. So very cool.
Yeah, so I want to go back to one of your historic games. Tell our fans about the 1990 game against the Buffalo Bills when you caught a 95-yard pass from Randall Cunningham. And what was that like playing against the Bills at that time?
Oh, it was amazing. Of course, I hear about that play all the time. As a matter of fact, one guy that I met in Philly while I was at home just sent me the play through it via text.
Oh, cool.
But It's something that I if I had a penny every time I heard about that play, I'd probably be rich right now. But it was an exciting play. I mean, it's even exciting to watch. And who made that play actually was Randall Cunningham. I mean, him maneuvering in the end zone and ducking under Bruce Smith and getting himself in a position to throw the ball was just amazing. I just did what I did best, did what I do best, and that's just catch the football. And it's he put it out there and to be specific about the play, once he rolled to my right, and he pointed, I was like, oh, he's gonna throw it. And he just leaped it. And of course I long story short, I got up, went up to catch it, and here I am.
Oh, there he is.
This is
That's so
Lexington.
great. Hey, bud.
Hey, buddy.
I was just going to
what's
ask,
up?
my next question was, what's the advice for the youth?
Life is long. Stay positive. I also have a 10-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just starting, to play soccer here and just kind of going through the changes and being a young boy. So it's Lexington. Go to mama. Go to mama.
She's not here.
Well, go in the background.
Daddy.
Yes. Go. I'm sorry. He's
He's
a daddy's
welcome.
boy.
He can come on the
That's
show.
okay.
But just
Daddy. The phone is home yet.
almost. But being positive and just really hanging in there as a kid. And it takes, one thing I think is just important, especially for kids to know and understand, that there's a process in building character, and never give up on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we make decisions at a very young age of who we are, and we just really don't know who we are until we grow up. There are a lot of adults who don't even know who they are, to tell you the truth. But I can remember growing up as a kid, just not being confident in who I was, and it took a lot of little successes for me to build that confidence, and have friends.
Mm-hmm.
and be successful. And it's all a process. It never happens overnight.
Yeah. So
Great
obviously,
advice.
so obviously after your playing career, obviously you had a great playing career, like I said before, and after that you transitioned to be a tight ends coach for Memphis XFL team. So what was that like, being a tight ends coach, especially?
It was cool. It was cool. Of course, the XFL was a new league, and unfortunately, it didn't pan out. But it was great, and it kind of put me in a position to let me know that I had the ability to coach. It's interesting because there are a lot of players who can play the game, but can't really coach the game. So it just kind of let me know that, not only did I had the ability to play the game, but I had the ability to teach the game as well. So it was a great experience for me there. Kippy Brown actually was the head coach, and he was at Miami with me as a running backs coach. And I'm, of course, from the southern area, being Mississippi, and actually was living in Tennessee at the time, because my mom actually lives in Memphis. So it worked out very well for me, but it was a great experience.
So if the right opportunity comes for you down the line, or would you consider obviously you're in Bermuda right now, but would you consider being a coach sometime down the line, or you decide, or no coaching?
No. You just see that little guy right here?
Yeah.
There's no way I'm gonna miss, him waking up, and putting him to bed.
Right.
Not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have 3. It's always blows my mind, but what people can juggle.
Yeah, and everybody has, it doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not, going against what works for somebody else. Of course, a lot of coaches have interesting lifestyles and moving around, but I'm just not the type of guy.
That's great that you're there for them. Fred, tell us how you maintain personal balance when you were playing. Now, what are some of your keys to balance?
Well, I think most important is that, you have hobbies and things that you're interested in. I'm like a whiskey collector. I'm a cigar smoker. and I center myself around people who are very positive. I have a few friends. I've lost a lot of friends.
All right.
And it lost friends that I thought that I would be friends with, for a lifetime. And it just kind of teaches you that, there's some things that are not meant to have or meant to be. And it just puts you in a position to, go other directions. And as I mentioned earlier, it's very important to just be optimistic about life and about decisions that you make. And of course, weigh those decisions as well. I have a number of older friends who are people that I can be, transparent with and talk to, and are somewhat mentors, to me as a person.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important as well. Relationships are everything.
Absolutely.
And there are a lot of people who say, "Oh, I can be alone." Yeah, you can be alone, but it's better when you have somebody on your side. Sometimes even that's a process in finding the right people to have in your life. And there's nothing wrong with saying no.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with saying, "I'm sorry." I feel like we don't say that enough because we're not perfect and we always make mistakes, And I just think it's important for one to stay very optimistic about who they are and understand that there's a process to this. And even now, I'm 55 years old, and there are things that I'm looking forward to, I also have twin daughters who are at UVA.
Oh, wow.
They're
Oh,
athletes.
Mm.
They're athletes
cool.
on the rowing. They're on the rowing team and the lacrosse team.
Oh, nice.
Ooh,
Wow.
So
that's incredible.
Yeah, they're.
I did both.
I didn't
Very
think that they
hard.
would be athletes, but they turned out to be, Division I. They are higher athletes than I was. I was a Division I AA athlete. They were Division I athletes. So, and they're a lot smarter than I am too, which probably part of.
That's incredible. I did row at West Virginia University, and
Oh, really?
we had to get up in the dark and carry the boats.
Oh,
and I
yes.
thought, this is too much. I did it
Oh,
though.
yeah.
I did it. But then
There
I
you
ended
go.
up doing horseback riding more, but that is hard.
Yeah.
That's like serious physical work.
Oh, it's serious. It's serious.
Yeah, speaking of rowing, actually, my former co-host, Ariel, she does rowing at Alabama right now, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she tells me every day that it's a tough thing, and you need a lot of arm strength and obviously leg strength.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
It's beautiful though. Philly has Boathouse Row. Did you ever take them there to Boathouse Row, Fred?
Well, they went to Baldwin.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so they rode they rode in that river.
Nice.
Not they, but she. Haley is my rower's name. Haley Barnett. She's rode that river a number of times.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So a couple more things here before we let you go. And how much? Speaking of cigars, my father is a big cigar fan too. And what's your favorite cigar that you like to light up?
Oh goodness, so interesting because there's a buddy that I know very well that travels back and forth to Italy, and I would say my favorite. I think I have a favorite in the different tobaccos, but the Nicaraguan tobacco is probably my favorite. I like the Partagas from the Cuban. D4 is a great cigar. My wife actually just bought me Davidoff Royals, which are very, very expensive for our anniversary.
Wow.
And I just had that one for the first time. And that was like, whoa, this is amazing. But I would say probably the Nicaraguan tobacco is my go-to because it's flavorful and it's a little strong, but not too overbearing.
And what's it like now sharing your stories on these platforms, these shows? And actually, I saw your interview on our friend Matt and show. They have a great show too, and they're Philly fans. And what's it like to sharing your experiences, your stories on like these platforms right here?
It's interesting because I've always been, and I grew up as a humble kid, and I was the type of guy who would just go where everybody else would go. never required a bodyguard, or there was sometimes I would be, even when I was playing, I'd be in some little restaurant in South Philly, and people wouldn't believe that I was me sitting there. Like, why are you here? And I'm like, I'm eating dinner like you. So what's
Eating.
what do you mean? Why am I here? Where else would I be? I'm human, But it's. I say that to say it's humbling to know that somebody want to hear about how I got to where I am today, and it's pretty cool. And interestingly, Mike, I never, even with my girls, I never kind of revealed who I was. They just knew I was a professional football player.
Right.
And even my boys now, when we were in Philly, I took them to I think it was a Saints game, and for the first time, they saw all these people like staring at me, like, "Oh my God, there's Freddie." And they're looking at me like, "That's
I think
Dad."
that
And they're like, "Why are people going crazy?"
That's so great.
But so they have no idea, like, how good I was and who I was as a football player. And what my 10-year-old said to my wife, he said, "I knew Dad was famous, but I didn't know he was this famous." Because there were a line of people, waiting
that's so awesome.
in my autograph, and he was just like, "Wow."
Wow.
And,
He was like, "Let me get an autograph, Dad."
Yeah.
They've never like seen any videos of me and none of that. So, it comes in time.
That's so special. That's so special. Happy anniversary, by the way.
Yeah. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. I'm glad you guys, it was great doing this show. We finally got together.
Yeah. And
yes.
I've been kind of on the move, I'm getting old now. So if I don't keep moving, my muscles will get too tight. So I have to
Fred,
keep moving around.
what are you doing in Bermuda, like athletic wise? Are you doing lots of walking? You're swimming? Like it's 75 degrees. What's it like?
I'm trying to do more stretching now. I don't really have a lot of muscles to build, but just staying toned. I have this like elastic band that I work out with, not every day, but most of my days when I'm feeling like a little, cracky. Yep. But that's, I just try to keep it low key. I don't try to overdo it. I do have some back pain. I do have some knee pain and,
that's hard.
Headaches every once in a while. So, I just try to keep it calm and stay stressless.
Keep chilling. You deserve it. We are so grateful for you. Big thanks from Philly.
Thank you.
So, before we get to the last few things, I just want to bring, I don't know how much you pay attention to the game now, but there was an incident on Sunday with Antonio Brown against the Jets, and he took off his shirt, and the coach wanted to come in and play the game, but he refused. So he took off the shirt, threw it in the stands, went into the locker room by himself, and now he's not with the team anymore. And obviously, Antonio Brown, and what advice would you give to Antonio Brown, like a fellow receiver, and to
a different story though, Nathan?
No, this is happened on Sunday.
I know, but I heard he wasn't getting the playtime he needed.
He wasn't getting, and I was just about to make a comment. The coach, from my understanding, didn't want him in the game.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I mean, there absolutely should be no reason if you want as a head coach to put a guy in the game and he refuses to come in the game and then he runs off and has a fit. All right, that's your third strike. So you're you're out of there. I understand where he's coming from. I think that it should have been more of a discussion, of course, between the head coach and the organization. A lot of people don't give credit to, experiencing what he experienced. And a lot of people don't know and understand this. This happens to a number of players every year. I don't want to say it's with every team, but it happens to a lot of players. And that is, and I say that because of experience. It's happened to me.
Yeah, I've heard it a lot.
And that is when you sign a contract, you sign a contract that has incentives, and that if you have so many catches, so many yards, so many touchdowns, you get money for those incentives, right, for reaching those goals. And sometimes when the organizations see that they're going to be out of $300, $600, $1 million, and you're close to reaching those incentives, you'll get pushed to the side. That's the business of the game. I don't condone what he did, but I do know and understand how he feels and how he felt, knowing for sure that he was not in the game and knowing for sure how close he was to reaching those incentives. Let me also say this. Look at the timing of this. They were in a very hard game in which Antonio Brown needed to be in the game.
Exactly.
A number one guy needed to be in the game, and he wasn't in the game. So why would your number one guy, and of course where they were playing I think the Jets, right?
Jets, yeah.
So why would you not have your number one guy in the game when you really needed to, you really needed all your number ones in the game? Yeah. And I think that it was obvious to him to what they were doing. And this is allegedly, of course. But if you lay all the facts on the table, that's my conclusion of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have great compassion. There's definitely a backstory, and I've heard it from several different players, not on this story, but I've heard the story from several players where you have those incentives and then they're back. And to a couple of players that were huge, in the 90s that even in basketball that wanted to take their life because they were promised such greatness and they weren't being able to utilize their creative talent. And there's a lot more to it. So I have great compassion. You said it well, Fred.
Usually when you have a high incentive package, you have settled to make less money than you negotiated for. So he probably wanted more as a base salary, and they said, okay, we'll load you up with incentives. And for him, he was like, I'm going to get that. Yeah. But they said, no, you're not.
Yeah, how can you perform if they don't let you play? Yeah.
How can you perform when you're not on the field?
Yeah.
All right. Real quick, one word that describes DeVante Smith.
Oh, good. One word?
Yeah. Actually, maybe more than one word. How about
promising.
That?
How about that? He's promising. When I first saw him, I was like, oh my God, he's like my 10-year-old's bigger than he is. And I'm like, oh, good. But he's a tough kid. He's a tough kid. I watched him in the preseason. I actually went to a couple of practices and I'm like, he's a tough kid and he's very, very quick. And he catches the ball. And that's all you need. Yeah,
he's golden.
Yeah.
True grit. Yeah.
So the last two things here, our team is part of this foundation. It's called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach. He's now the head coach for Grambling State. We're trying to help him prevent human trafficking, making sure the community stays safe, the kids stay safe. So we'll send you the foundation so you can go check it out.
Okay, cool. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys having me today.
Yeah, and the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and all the essential workers?
Oh gosh! Oh, thank you so much for what you're doing for the communities. I know it's tough. I mean, you're talking about playing football tough. I can imagine, working the hours and seeing some of the things that healthcare workers see. It's very trying times, and just like football players, need to go on the field to make a play. These guys are making plays for us and saving lives for those who are putting themselves in good positions to get through this. So thank you so much for what you've done and for what you're continuing to do.
Yeah, so that wraps up a fun show today, episode 956 with a Pro Bowl receiver, Fred Barnett. From the Eagles, Dolphins, and what a great career, amazing career, and big into bourbon, like I said, and I used to be a coach. But thank you for joining the show. It's truly an honor, Fred. It was great learning about your story, fun times, and hopefully we would like to have you back on the show one day and down the line so you can meet the full team. But keep up the great work. Enjoy Bermuda and stay safe.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Anytime.
Thank you, Fred.
Thanks.